Hey folks, Papa Boris here with the 7th game to finish from the Champions First Cup, a leaders tournament on Board Game Arena. We were up against Katragon in this one. This was the lowest rated player in the tournament and the only player, I believe, below 300, but this was the tournament organizer and, as we shall see, a pretty good player. This was a tough game. So I move my leader up and I do get the Royal Guard, which is obviously very nice. My opponent's got some good choices. The Brewmaster and Jailer are both good, though they're not very mobile, so he's not getting off to a fast start. He grabs the Brewmaster, and out pops the Assassin, so he hits a brick there, and he's got nothing better than to take the Jailer. So I'm up against a lower-rated opponent, and I definitely win the draft. The luck aspect is in my favor here, because while his characters are good, they're not very mobile, so I get off to a very fast, aggressive start. I get to shove my Royal Guard right up there, and the Rider popped out, so I also get another fast character. Now, my opponent does now get the Acrobat, so he's got two good characters if he can just survive the opening. He's got the Acrobat. He's actually going to have a pretty good squad. And he takes him, but out pops the Illusionist for me. So I bring in my Rider. I step my leader back a little bit to block the Acrobat's jump to this spot, which was made possible by the Rider. And then, of course, I'm going to grab the Illusionist. So my thinking here is very, very basic. My opponent can't actually block this swap, so I can get the Illusionist right in there and then maybe summon the Royal Guard back in. And if nothing else, it keeps my opponent on the defensive, making it very hard for him to advance his pieces. So my opponent brings up the Jailer. Note the Royal Guard actually from here cannot swap back because the Jailer stops that. He then uses the Acrobat to jump there, bringing a piece close to my leader. And he brings the Brewmaster up as well, so I have to be very careful now with potential Brewmaster kicking shenanigans. He moves the leader away from the Illusionist, which of course would have lost him the game if he had kept him there, because I could have swapped, put my leader here, and ridden back for checkmate. Also, there's still a draft left, so I could have just drafted a piece next to it for checkmate. And then he grabs the Claw, unsurprisingly. The Claw is now able to swoop into this central spot. So really nice, precise play by my opponent here. Now I get a bit lucky. The Protector and the Assassin are kind of bricks here, but the Vizier shows up. So I do get a good character. I proceed with my plan. I swap with the Royal Guard. I then decide to summon the Royal Guard. And after doing some more thinking, I put the Rider there, then I summon the Royal Guard, and then I do that. I don't know why I switched the order on that. It doesn't matter. I could have done it in either order. And then I put the leader there. It's a little bit frisky, but I am, I believe, safe here. There's no piece that can, like, get here and then get kicked by the Brewmaster. The Acrobat can touch me, but only the Acrobat can do so. And I grab the Vizier. So I figure it's a little bit frisky having the leader here with this gap, but I do have the Vizier. So with these two pieces currently technically threatening checkmate, I think I've got a pretty good shot of pulling this out. My opponent steps up with the Claw, and then he undoes it. He decides to move the Brewmaster first, undoes that. He moves the leader back here, and then pulls the Brewmaster up, and then he pulls in the Claw. So he's got a very aggressive and symmetrical formation. And at the moment, I'm not technically able to checkmate. So my opponent's gambling that his 4 pieces can crowd my leader out through my defenses before my 2 pieces can get in for checkmate, which is honestly not an unreasonable gamble. He steps in with the Acrobat, does this instead of going for the jump. And then he also brings in the Jailer. I think I might have preferred to do the jump, but maybe my opponent didn't want me to like do a shenanigan type of thing where I swap with my leader. He wanted to block that. Although I think if my Illusionist swaps with my leader, there isn't a way after that to stop me from getting checkmated. So I don't know that he needed to block that. But in any case, the Acrobat here is also, of course, very threatening, and it does stop me from putting a piece here myself. So on my turn, I have a very clear path forward. I put my 2 pieces closer to his leader. I'm threatening checkmate. This is not impossible to stop, but it is very difficult to stop. And then, of course, I'm obviously going to put my Vizier there. So my Vizier, it's very important to note, has already moved. And now there's just a tiny matter of not getting checkmated. And you have a lot of options. You can go with the Vizier here, 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 or here, or you can stay put. Because remember that's a trick. Sometimes the best option is to not play. So pause for a moment if you'd like a little puzzle here. How do you stop yourself from getting checkmated here? All right, you ready to check out the answer? If you go here, you lose. The Brewmaster kicks the Acrobat down, Acrobat steps here, Jailer steps here, checkmate. Moving the Rider does not help because basically the Acrobat and the Jailer can cover these 3 squares, and there's no way for the Rider to block 2 of them by himself. If you go here, you lose. The Acrobat jumps this way, and then the Jailer steps in, Brewmaster kicks him down for checkmate, and there's no way to stop that from happening because if you put the Rider here, the Acrobat can jump down here for check, and then of course the Jailer steps down for mate. If you go all the way over here, you lose, because here, the Brewmaster steps forward to touch your leader, the Claw pulls up the Vizier, and then the Acrobat steps in for checkmate. If you stay put, you lose, because the Acrobat jumps over you, and the Jailer steps in for checkmate. So, you have 2 options, here or here, but you have to be careful. Normally, if you step down, in this kind of a plug formation, you're totally safe. But you have to be careful, because you're not safe here. If you choose to just put the leader down and not do anything, then the Acrobat just jumps out of the way. The Brewmaster kicks the Claw here, and the Claw pulls the leader up the middle for checkmate. So if you go down, you also had to spot that the Rider had to move here to block that possibility. And if you go here, you have to be a little bit careful because the Acrobat jumps here, and then the Jailer steps in, and the Brewmaster kicks the Jailer down for checkmate. So you also have to put the Rider here if you chose this spot. So basically, these 2 spots are safe, but in both cases, you have to put the Rider here in order to stop the checkmate. So which one do you pick? Well, the opponent does have a way to stop this checkmate threat. There was exactly one way that I could notice, and that involves putting the Claw here. So I figured going straight down made more sense because that put my leader further away from the Claw after he stops the checkmate. I don't know why I undid that with the Vizier because the Vizier obviously had to go there. So now it's over to Katragon and, 267 or whatever ELO, doesn't matter. He spots how to save himself. He kicks the Claw over, which allows the Claw to pull my Royal Guard, 1 absolutely critical hex, stopping the checkmate. He then steps in with the Jailer to be very, very threatening, and he jumps over with the Acrobat. So now I'm getting a little bit closed in here, and it's looking extremely unsafe for my leader. Now the good news is that I do have the Vizier, but at the same time I have to be very careful, because if I just run here, I'm in line with the Claw. And that's a really easy way to lose. So I have to play extremely carefully. My opponent decides to move their leader and actually keeps the Acrobat where it is, which is fine because the Acrobat can still jump in here later. And the Acrobat and the Brewmaster and the Jailer can all get out of the way of the Claw if I am so foolish as to put my leader in this spot. This also stops me from putting my leader here and blocking this space to prevent the Claw or the Acrobat jumping shenanigans. So what do I do here? Well, the drawback of my opponent putting the Acrobat here is that, the advantage of putting the Acrobat here is that it stops me from blocking the Acrobat's jump back out, and it also stops me from blocking the Claw's line of sight, allowing my leader to jump in, or to fly to this square, where he can then summon the Royal Guard and bring it very close to his leader. As it is, if I jump here, I'm obviously getting checkmated. But the disadvantage of putting the Acrobat here is that I can now swap with it with my Illusionist, and I think maybe my opponent missed this or underestimated its significance. I think the correct play probably for my opponent was just to jump here with the Acrobat. This just simply prevents my leader from going in this direction, which means that my leader can run to safety in the other direction, but the Claw is waiting here. There's Brewmaster shenanigans if I'm not careful, and it prevents the Royal Guard from being an offensive piece. As it is, though, I run over here with the leader, and now I can... Oh, actually, hold on a second. Let me pause for a second. I could summon the Royal Guard here and step up, but the problem with that is that if I do that, it allows my opponent to claw his leader to this spot and then run the hell away. And then I would be in some pretty serious ass trouble for how the hell I was going to win that game. So I needed to keep the Royal Guard here to block that save. But the important thing is that my leader can go here extremely safely, and I can then move up in the future and summon the Royal Guard back at a time of my choosing. Now, I think at this point, it's a very unclear game, because my Illusionist had to get away from his leader for a safety measure, and my Royal Guard did as well. So both of my offensive pieces that were threatening checkmate just a moment ago are now suddenly on the defensive. So there is that issue, but because my leader is here, I do have the leader potentially as a checkmating piece, since there's not a lot of pieces of his own near his leader. So the leader can potentially have some opportunities to step in, and if the leader can step in close, then he summons the Royal Guard in behind him, and that's checkmate. So that was my thinking here. My opponent moves the claw in to the hole, brings up the acrobat, a slightly different spot, and then just passes the turn. I'm not sure why he put the claw here. The claw was good in this spot because it always gave the possibility of the save of pulling away the leader. Here, because it's surrounded by pieces, it can't actually do anything. But maybe there's something about this that I missed. In any case, I move out my illusionist. I bring my vizier, so I'm getting my pieces closer to the enemy leader. Maybe my opponent was thinking of like moving the leader up and pulling it in, but this is not a safe space anymore. So for the purpose of like having the claw as a potentially leader saving piece, here it actually was more effective. I move the rider away from the jailer so I could potentially ride like this through the spaces that are currently being reserved by my pieces, and I don't move my leader. I really wanted to move my leader like here, but I can't, because if I put it here, then his leader steps up, acrobat jumps, jailer moves, it's checkmate. And if I put it here, I think that can work, because the jailer can go, but nothing else can. Like the acrobat can step up and the brewmaster can kick it, but it's still one space away. But it still felt a little bit unsafe, so I decided to keep it here just in case. My opponent steps up with the acrobat, kicks it with the brewmaster, bringing it closer to my leader. So here is a much better space to be now than here would have been. And he steps down with the jailer to cut off my leader's escape somewhat. I can still zip over here thanks to the vizier, although then I have to maintain this wall to prevent any other piece from checkmating me. He steps down with the claw, reconsiders it, does it again, and then passes the turn. So now I decide to zip back up this way because my opponent is allowing me. Here, my leader is safe. His leader can't touch me. His jailer can't touch me. His claw, as far as I could tell, couldn't do anything to touch me. And then the brewmaster is not helpful at getting anything towards my leader. And now I'm threatening Royal Guard shenanigans. In fact, I decide there's no reason to wait. I just shove the Royal Guard in right now. And I even can have the luxury of stepping up my illusionist. The nice thing about this is that now my illusionist and Royal Guard have reprised their roles as checkmate threateners. My opponent's pieces are all super far away. He cannot save his leader with the claw because the claw's in the wrong lane. And this vizier move was actually important because otherwise he could have moved the brewmaster away and pulled off my illusionist. So the vizier is stopping the claw from getting the illusionist, and I pass the turn, hoping here that there wasn't some way for my opponent to checkmate me. He stepped one space up with the jailer, is just one space away from checkmate, and moves their leader, and jumps in with the acrobat. I don't think my opponent really thought this was any chance of saving me, but he did give me the opportunity to now suffocate his leader with my leader. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and or subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.